episode of Shift. I'm your host, Palmonia Gordon. Thank you for joining us today. Today, we are coming to you live from Australia. Woohoo! We have Carrie in the house. This amazing young lady, I met her at the Woman on Fire event. She flew in for the event. She has a voice like you have never heard, and I'm sure she has a story to match, which I'm going to allow her to share with you. Tari, go ahead and say your full name, because I'm actually shortening her name. It's Tarisai?
Yeah.
Tarisai. Tarisai.
Yes, Tarisai. Thank you.
Awesome. Now, tell us a little bit about you, who you are, your journey to where you are today in brief, if you will.
Right. So I was born in Zimbabwe, in Harare, and there I was raised by a single mom. So my parents split before I was born. So
Whoa.
yeah, so which was a bit of a long haul. And so my mom raised me by herself, and fortunately she was an accountant.
Mm.
And so she grew up in the UK. She left Zimbabwe when she was 16 years of age. And then she came back and she met my dad, and she went back again, and then she came back and they gave birth to me. And so my relationship between my parents was kind of a painful one, because things just ended without them realizing that things had just ended, because my dad was training in another town, and he was studying to be a medical doctor. So he finished a little bit later than my mom at uni. So I started singing at the age of 3. In fact, I started with dancing, which was funny. It was dancing for the worship team, and I was only 3 years of age. And then I started singing as well. And the funny thing is, my mom didn't know about
Oh, wow.
until I was
Okay.
maybe 5, that I could actually sing, that I had the confidence and everything else. And
So how come she didn't know when you started at 3?
because she was always traveling. She was an auditor. So she was always traveling. In my life, I was always, she left me with, we had a nanny at home, like a full time. So she was
Okay.
always traveling. So when all these things used to happen, she was not,
Yeah.
she was not
Yeah.
around. Yeah, only my auntie, who's late now, she was a great singer. So she used to sing with me. She was my mom's youngest sister. And
Okay.
she knew the secret behind everything. And
Oh.
so she left and she went to get married, and she left me, and I continued singing through until I was maybe 11. And then
Okay.
when I was 14, we relocated from Zimbabwe to Sydney, Australia. In fact, we were meant to relocate to Miami. My mom was
Oh,
meant
wow.
to masters. Yeah, yeah. And my uncle lives here, her brother, and
Uh-huh.
he decided to get my mom a visa, because he had a recruitment company for accountants and nurses and everything. So it didn't take us, I think, 2 weeks to get our visa.
Wow.
And,
That was
um,
fast.
yeah, and I was at a boarding school, and I remember just receiving the phone call, and she's like, guess what? We're moving to Australia. And I was like, what are you talking about? This is awkward.
So no options.
No options. And back at the time, I had my little boyfriend, so I wasn't really prepared to leave the guy. And I was a teen, those puppy loves things. And I was at a boarding school, famous, having fun, and it
Yeah.
was boarding schools in Zimbabwe are just so much fun.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was having the time of my life, and all of a sudden I have to leave everything. And I did. And settling here, it was more about making friends again. That was difficult at school, not because I was an extrovert, and I felt
Mm.
like people didn't understand me much, the cultural differences and everything, and I found it hard to make friends. But eventually, a few months later, I settled in with an islander girl called Lailani, and we started singing together. She was a singer as well.
Sounds
Yeah.
like Leilani. Is she from Hawaii?
No,
Sounds
she's
like Hawaii.
islands. So she's an island from the Cook Islands.
Okay,
So
cool.
she's from the islands. She's from one of the islands, yeah, like Hawaii. And yeah, so we started singing together. And unfortunately, Lailani left school. She was kind of a bit of a wild chick. And I was kind of still the nerd. And I continued with my music. I had music lessons here, and I enrolled at a music school. I had my first television appearance when I was 14 as well.
Wow.
Yeah, 3 months after I settled in Australia. So it seems like everything was sort of like planned.
Alignment.
Korea, yeah, to just like breeze and browse through. Although that was not, it's just the tip of the iceberg. My story comes that I went for an interview for a TV something, and then the lady introduced me to a Caribbean Jamaican guy called Daniel Lewison.
Okay.
Loved my voice, and he had a recording company called Giant Corporation. But this Giant Corporation, the secret was it was founded and funded by a drug dealer, and we had no idea. That was my story. And I was a minor and I had no idea. And he was a very nice guy. I mean, I got signed to the record label. We started recording. I got offered a deal by Def Jam Records, Jay-Z himself, and fell under, it just fell under because Daniel was not prepared to let me go from Australia into America because he still wanted to manage me, and I think they had issues with cutting losses on the percentages and things like that, and it just fell through.
Wow.
Kept coming. Sony had the same issue. I had the same issue with Universal Music and Warner, and he just kept on letting deals off without letting me know, and because I was a minor as well.
So why was he letting the deals fall? I mean, Sony, Jay-Z, so many good opportunities. It was it that he was afraid to
Yeah.
negotiate a proper contract, or he didn't know how?
No. He was afraid to let me go because officially he was my manager, and they wanted to change management. As you know, there were big labels. So obviously they would have their own managers prepared, their own management that understands the record labels, understands the marketing aspect of things, in which I understood. So I think he was trying to sort of like sell me as an artist. And when it came to percentages, I think he wanted more than what they were offering. And because I was a minor, my mom she wasn't well versed in this whole industry thing. She just signed me off to him, and she had no idea what was taking place. So
Mm-hmm.
and this was with one of my friends who happens to be a rapper as well. And then later on, because he was more mature, he discovered this. And then when we discovered, I started sending out my demos outside, and without Daniel's knowledge. And then later on, he found out. And at the time he found out, I had already been recommended to the Australian Idol with Sony. And I think I must have been already on.
Australian Idol?
Yes, by that time I was
Which
20,
year was that?
2007.
Wow.
Yeah. And then by the time he found out, he came in, and that's when I told him the truth that, now I'm 20. We've wasted so many like opportunities and years, and we have to let it go. And obviously he couldn't he couldn't sue me for it. And he went to Les, who's unfortunately he's late now. He ended up getting shot on the traffic lights and passed away because of his drug issues. And he went and spoke to him, and Les said, you know what, just release her because you were making wrong decisions based on it. So I think it's time to let her go. And that's when I competed on Idol, and I came fifth, and that's when my career started, like officially. And I was touring. I released a few singles and everything that did quite well. And then I moved to secular music, to Christian from secular music. And while I was doing that, I was studying music theater at uni. And just before I graduated, I got signed to Disney to do
Oh,
line.
wow.
Yeah. So,
When was that?
pardon?
Which year?
Um, 2012 into 13, I remember. Yeah.
Huh?
And
Who
then
did you play? Who are you singing?
in Lion
What?
King,
Oh, that those the ones that you do there so well. The
yeah, yeah,
circle.
yeah. So yeah, I had a few roles. I was the ensemble. I did Shenzi, one of the trio for the hyenas, and
Yeah.
Beaky, right? So that was my story. And then I released my album, my first Christian album in 2017 after I toured with Lion King and finished, because that was a very long tour. And
Mm-hmm.
yes, I injured my back for a bit, which is still giving me issues from
Wow.
being walking around like an animal, hence the hot water bottle. And
How did
pardon?
how did you hurt your back?
I mean, constantly for 3 years, you're walking around like animals, bending down.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, you actually are in that posture.
yeah. You actually are for most roles. So yeah, so it's detrimental on the body. And
Wow.
with that, and then after that, I released my album, and then I went on tour last year with the musical Madiba. And here I am. I'm really just in the studio tonight. I'm recording my next single for the next EP coming out.
Okay. Wow. Okay. So what's the name of your album, your Christian album?
It's the new one or the previous one?
The previous one in 2017.
Oh, right. It's called Redemption.
Redemption.
Yeah, I recorded it in Atlanta, Georgia.
And it's Tarisai. What's the name? What's it released under?
Tarisai Vushe. So Tarisai Vushe. And it's
Okay.
all over.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Well, woo, congratulations.